TradingView, one of the most popular platforms in finance, and today, my name is Ash, is going to give you a little tutorial. We're not going to go balls deep. Further videos will come on to how to use indicators and do this, that, and the other. Or you can check out the link below to our premium, which has a load of courses, continuation of the market, all using this. So it's always good to get grounded in this in a basic form before you start getting confused when you go on to the likes of Binance, Bybit, etc. And it's all bells and whistles and flashing lights at you, right? So let's start with the homepage. This is kind of what you get when you sign in. There's different price plans and stuff like that. Feel free to check them out on the link below. However, if you're a beginner, you don't need many indicators. You just need to see and start off with your own eyeballs without bamboozling yourself with indicators, right? A lot of people go down the YouTube rabbit hole of finding indicators and going, I want to do this, that, and the other. It gets a little bit daunting. So we're going to talk specifically about the super chart, as they say. And what we're going to do, we're going to create a new one. So we'll go to new layout, and this is what you get. Default layout on dark mode. If you want to go on to light mode, essentially, or however you want to do it, you basically just want to change all the colors. But there is a specific area in your tab which you can go dark mode if you want to, but I personally don't want to do that. I prefer dark mode these days. So volume at the bottom, candles in its regular form, and it's up to you in terms of how you want to do your watch list and stuff. So a watch list is probably going to be random configuration of like top assets. It'll have an S&P 500 and stuff like that in there, but you can make your own if you so wish to. Very, very easy to make your own list. You can tag them, you can add little sections as well. Easy, right? And if you're looking to add things, you can add them in this bottom here. If you're looking to change your chart, it's on this top left because that is where you look at anyways. But other things to make note of, time frames. Don't worry about the stuff at the bottom in terms of how it kind of forms out over a month. This is the time frame over a month, as you can see. Worry about what these time frames are saying, right? So in simple terms, 6 hour time frame, the 1 hour time frame, not looking great, is it? 1 minute and stuff. You can change these depending on what price plan you're on. But personally, if you star the ones that you like, then you can keep them all up on this bar. I prefer the higher time frames personally, but that's just me. Now, that's it in simple terms, right? In terms of understanding the basics, right? You have a load of tools on the left-hand side. So some of these are like lines, for example. You can configure these to whatever color you want. If you press the little tab button on the right-hand side, you can get a lot of other little ones. A lot of them are drawing tools. Some indicators and tools here, such as the Fibonacci, the pitchfork, the channels, etc., etc. Again, we're not going to cover much of those in this video. Drawing tools, very, very simple. Rectangle boxes, which is what I use a lot of. The brush tool, for example. Moving into the text bar, yep, text, images, ideas, tweets, arrow markings, pointing at things, all kinds of stuff. Very, very straightforward. Some of the patterns, charting patterns, if you're into charting patterns, they're all here. You can draw them on there. Again, simple lines of positioning, long, short positions, potentially forecasting, data ranges, price points, projections, etc. And then we get into the boring stuff of emojis. What you can put emojis. You can use a magnet tool, so you can use a magnet to draw a line on a certain area. If you want to use a magnet, it will kind of force it onto a level. As you can see, there's a little bit of feedback there. It gets you perfect in line, but personally, I find it a little bit daunting, so I don't tend to use it, but it's up to you. Anyways, that's the basics in terms of simplicity of tools. Other things to make note of, you can change your candle type via these areas here. Very, very simple. There's also other ones to look at. But again, we're not going to dwell too much on the basics of certain things like that because it gets a little bit complicated. Other things, as I said before, if you press a little thing button, the little star button, you can get a little favorites bar. I like to plonk mine down here, even though it doesn't snap in, which it should do. TradingView, if you're watching this, make it so it snaps in because it'll look pretty cool if it does that. So when we're looking at charts, you can zoom in and zoom out. You can do all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff. And you can also customize how your chart can look in terms of your preferences and how you want to have it. Now, this is a default version. Other default lines, you can see there's a very, very faint line. It's not the most obvious, not on my screen anyways, because there's a lot of light behind it. But there is a very clear and obvious grid box, right? Right click, go to settings, right? You can change all these if you so wish. So if you want to change your I wouldn't recommend it, but you get the idea. You can change certain levels of this chart to make it look however the hell you want. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Go to symbol. You can change the color of your candles. You can change the color of the wicks. You can take off borders if you want to and change the prices. You can show price lines from the previous price. I like to keep mine off. I like to keep these off as well because it kind of gets confusing. I like to have minimalistic charts. A lot of people like that. Some people don't. I don't use indicators. I just use a moving average or a whole moving average to see the trend, and that's it. Everything else is structure. And then I use Fibonacci and levels of supply and demand. That's kind of how we do it, how we teach as a basic format to keep it super simple. Now, other things, you can remove the logo up there if you want to. You can remove the title if you so wish. I probably wouldn't recommend that, but I like to have it as a ticker so it's nice and neat. The opening of the market, it's usually a good guide if you're trading stocks or the FX market. Open, highs, lows, and the close. That's these values here. So you can see if you put your cursor onto a candle, it'll give you the data, relatively straightforward. The bars, and then obviously volume as well as another one. Up to you what you want to do with that. Personally, I like to leave that as it is. The scale is the one where it's more interesting, where you can kind of change little elements. So for me, I like to remove the plus button because it kind of does my heading. And I like to keep a countdown of when the candle is going to close, just so you know where you're at, especially in different time frames. It gets a little bit mental. The canvas, as before, you can change certain things. So one thing I like to do, I like to change my crosshair so it's a solid line. Up to you if you want to put a watermark in there, but it's kind of just a bit distorting, but it's up to you. You can have a gradient or a full-on color, up to you. If you want to change the way your chart does look or how it feels or numbers or colors, entirely up to you. If you want to make it bigger, I mean, you know, some people often say in my videos, wow, can you make your numbers big because I can't see how? Yeah, I like to have them smaller. It looks neat. Personally, I think it looks neater smaller, but that's just the way it is. But again, it's entirely up to you how you want to have it. So yeah, you can go down the rabbit hole in terms of finding all this. But yeah, other than that, there's not much to change. Realistically, there's not much to change. One thing that I do, I like to remove the volume because it just looks a bit messy. And then that is literally, you know, you can have it set up however you want. Indicators and stuff like that, as I say, I'll come on to that in another video. But if you're looking at certain levels of price, I like to use rectangle boxes because it gives you a bit of an idea of where things are. Keep it super simple, super easy. Don't have to worry too much about it because you can draw them on. But people like to use lines. So as I mentioned before, you can have a horizontal line, which is not massively distorting. Some people have the full line all the way across, some people don't, and it's up to you. Any of these lines, if you open it up, there's always going to be a setting box. You can change it. You can change the thickness of the line. You can change the color of the line. You can put text on there. Hello. You know, there's all kinds you can do here. It's, you know, the good thing with TradingView, you can put it however you want. The tool is here to analyze what you are seeing, right? So when we go to different markets and looking at different things, they're all different, right? It gives you an idea of what to look for. So maybe on the Ethereum time frame, you may be looking at, oh, why is this in a range, for example, right? You want to try and get to the point of figuring out, well, what's going to happen next? When is it going to fall out this range? Is it going to test resistance? Is it going to test support? Should I be buying? Should I be selling? All that kind of stuff. Again, going into other situations, you've got other things. So the Dow Jones Index, for example, looking at where it is, right? Go to the weekly time frame, you get a good idea of where the trend is and what it's doing. But it's entirely up to you how you want to analyze this data. Other than that, not much really to tell you other than the more advanced stuff, which I'm going to cover just in a second. So if you go to this little area here, you've got a few more things. So you got the log scale. You can use a log scale if you want to. That just changes the formula of how it's working. Personally, I like to leave it off. If you want to invert your chart, you can turn it upside down. It confuses people. It's great. When you're on Bitcoin and you just want to troll people, you go, oh my God, it's going to dump. Oh. Yeah, it gives you a new perspective. It's really, really interesting. But yeah, other than that, there's not much to go on. You know, you can change labels and stuff like that if you want to and add little bits and pieces, but there's not a lot to give you. That's the top and bottom of it. Other things to make note of, you may have this thing at the bottom here. You can drag that down. It will tell you certain situations, so it will give you ideas, it will give you certain people's information, but also gives you live price data as well as performance. as well as a technical side of it. If you press on the technicals tab, it will give you all the information of what the moving averages are saying, all kinds of little bits and pieces, right? Nothing too scary, really. But personally, you're better off using your own eyes instead of that. Finally, the last bit we need to talk about is the screener. If you're on crypto, you know, go down to the crypto screener. You're better off just making this large. There you go. This will give you a lot of stuff based on some filters. It will give you a load of assets and you can click on them and you can move around and do whatever. You can pick what exchange, the volume, all that kind of stuff. So you can find potential trending opportunities. So if it's an uptrend or a downtrend, you may well want to react in that. So there we go. Nice, short, sweet, simple. I don't want to go too deep. TradingView is a big platform. I can split it up into multiple videos, such as indicators, ideas, live streams, all that kind of stuff that it does. It is pretty damn impressive. So yeah, not gone too much into the functionals, more in terms of the visuals. So yeah, if you like this video, leave a like, leave a subscribe, and yeah, we'll be back with more tutorials in a week.